Hi everyone, today I'm going to share about how to evaluate effectively. And today my sharing is basically for those who are evaluating for the first time. Now, let's start. Success begins with accepting feedback. In your Level 1 Pathways project, you have the second project, evaluation and feedback, and you are required to deliver a first speech and then followed by a second speech applying the feedback that you have received from the first speech. And subsequently, you will need to become a speech evaluator. And that is quite nerve-wracking, especially when you do not have experience in giving feedback. So before you want to become an evaluator, it's important that you learn how to accept feedback from your evaluators as well. So one of the tips that you as a speaker can do is to apply the feedback from your evaluators and maybe you want to ask them further questions and be more specific in terms of which skills in particular you would want to improve on. For example, perhaps you would want the evaluator to focus on your vocal variety, or maybe on your gestures, facial expressions, or maybe your speech crafting. It really depends on you how to communicate with your evaluator. Now, let's talk more about evaluator. The role of an evaluator is actually to motivate, encourage, and inspire the speaker to improve themselves. And how do you want to do that? It's not that you want to be a judge on deciding who is the winner, who is the best speaker, but rather you are delivering your honest and sincere feedback from what you have observed. And last but not least, when providing feedback, remember your tone, facial expressions, and manner should be very encouraging to not destruct the confidence of the speaker. That is why we call it a constructive feedback. Next, I would like to share with you a few tips before your evaluation. It's important for you to read through the project and evaluation guide of the speaker. For example, if you are doing a Level 1 evaluator role, normally the Vice President Education or your President will assign a lower level speaker for you to evaluate to make things easier. Perhaps an icebreaker speech or maybe a first or second speech, a speech that you have done before. So very important for you to go back either to your base camp or the manual that you have printed out to read again the project so that you know what the speaker need to improve on. All right. And next one, you can also talk with the speaker if you know them in person, especially if they are your club member. Try to ask them, how do they feel in preparing the speech, or just to communicate with them to understand what is their situation like, whether do they have enough time to prepare their speech or not. Yeah, just try to talk with the speaker to build some rapport. And during the evaluation, important for you to not only listen to the speaker, but to observe as well on the non-verbal language portrayed by the speaker. For example, the facial expressions, the hand gestures, the stage position, and so on. For example, if in online setting, does the speaker appear to be visible in the 4 squares, or whether we can't really see the speaker? So what you see and what you hear is important in evaluation. Now, when delivering your evaluation points, it's very important to personalize your points. Normally what we do is we will use the term I from the I perspective. Means it's your own personal opinion, not anyone else, or it doesn't represent the entire audience. For example, you can see this particular table which differentiates advice and feedback. Advice is in such that you tell them straight away, directly, don't be scared. Sometimes it may sound very harsh or it may sound like an order. But for feedback-wise, as an evaluator, we would say in a better way, I noticed that you were shaking and nervous in the beginning of your speech. So sometimes it's not only that you use the word I, but your tone and voice should also suit what you are trying to share. So these are other examples that you can try to personalize your feedback. Now, Other than that, you can also use these 3 I's, or I would say use your senses while trying to note down what to provide as the feedback. For example, what you see in the speaker, what you feel, and what you hear. So these 3, I heard, I felt, and I saw, because you can't literally smell the speaker, right? So these 3 areas is what I heard. Normally is in terms of the speech content, whether they have the opening, a body, and a very solid conclusion. And what you feel is the emotional appeal. Did the speaker use vocal variety or storytelling techniques to grab your attention and arouse your emotions? And lastly is what you saw, like what I said just now, the stage usage, virtual stage usage, or even the facial expressions, eye contact, and so on. So in terms of pathways evaluation, you will notice that for each pathways project in the second and third page, there will be these 7 criteria, and sometimes there will be an additional criteria depending on the projects. So in terms of all these criteria, I will show you later on how do you really score the numerical scale. So it's 1 to 5, 1 being the poorest scale, and the highest or maximum number is 5. So in terms of clarity, normally we are talking about how clear is the speaker's voice, vocal variety, whether did they have any low tone or high tone, the pacing of the speech, whether are there any pauses, the pitching, and so on. Eye contact is eye contact with the audience in virtual meetings. Of course, is the eye contact into the camera. Gestures is referring to the hand gestures. And audience awareness, whether the speaker is aware of preparing a speech that is relatable to the audience. And comfort level is the confidence level of the speaker, whether any signs of nervousness. Interest is whether the topic is interesting enough to capture your attention. So these 7 criteria are present in all pathways project. So for a normal evaluation speech, it's 2 to 3 minutes. Let me repeat, it's 2 to 3 minutes. At 2 minutes, the timer will show green, 2.5 minutes yellow, and 3 minutes it's red. Maximum you have 3 minutes and 30 seconds. I would encourage you to follow this format that they call it the sandwich method, because you will talk about the good things first and then the recommendations later. So this particular format will enable you to speak within the timing. Yeah. Within the timing is very important, especially in a contest, because you do not want to get yourself disqualified. So opening. In the opening, usually you spend about 30 seconds. What you can do here is you can build rapport with the speaker depending on the speech topic. And then you can share about what are the 2 or 3 things that you like or love about the speech. Not only sharing what you love about the speech, but also why you like the speaker in that particular area. Mentioning the why is very important to justify your points so that it doesn't seem that you're just saying good things without solid evidence. It will be good if you can note down 1 or 2 examples relatable to the points that you're going to share. Examples, for example, is like, what are the exact words or exact dialogues in that speech? But try to not reiterate the speech content, as this will eat up your timing. Then after you talk about the good things, you can share the recommendations. Normally, we'll suggest 1 to 2 recommendations. If you really run out of time, just share 1 recommendations with justifications. Like I've mentioned, justifications means why and perhaps how the speaker can do it. If you are talking about vocal variety, how the speaker can improve vocal variety, what you can suggest is perhaps for the speaker to listen to their own speech recording and improve on the intonation depending on what kind of emotional appeal that the speaker wants to portray to the audience. So be specific in your recommendations with justifications, and of course, use your senses, your sight, your hearing, and your heart in evaluating, as sincere feedback will always be accepted by your speakers. Last but not least, before you end, just don't end abruptly. End with a note, encouraging note. Encourage the speaker for another speech. And you can also use the contest method where you can recap what you have shared, the good points and the recommendations, and full stop. All right, 3.5 minutes is not very long. Well, these are some tips that you may want to avoid. Avoid repeating a point. Yeah, I understand it's quite hard not to do that because sometimes we are so nervous as we are recalling our points, we tend to repeat some of the points in different words. Judgment words or phrases. It's like what I showed you just now, the advice column. Don't be too direct, especially when you're talking about the recommendations. Reiterate the speech content as it will steal a lot of your time. No conclusion. Be careful of that. And of course, as an evaluator, sometimes we are very nervous because we are very, I would say, we are low in confidence because we may think we are not as good as the speaker we are evaluating. Once a while, we will have this feeling, especially if you are just joining Toastmasters for a short while. So just bear in mind that you are now an evaluator or a person who wants to help the other speaker to grow and improve. Think from this point of view, you want to help them to improve, and I believe you will be able to deliver apt and spot-on points for that particular speaker. So all in all, that's my sharing for today. I will just brief you through the evaluation criteria in the form so that you can get a rough idea on how does it work. All right. Okay. So this is the feedback form or evaluation form that you may need to fill up. Not may, you must fill up for that particular speaker. It's one of your practice and your obligation as an evaluator. So fill up your member's name, your name, and also the speech title. Be aware of the timing, whether the speaker speak within the allotted time, and read through the purpose statements of this speech and ensure that the speaker met the speech objective. Because if the speaker do not prepare the speech according to this project manual, it's recommended that they repeat the speech again. If not, they would not get the competencies in this project, and when they go to higher level in pathways, they may still feel not confident or incompetent. So important for evaluators to highlight that. Okay, and notes for the evaluator is usually a reminder for evaluator just to go through all of these criteria again. And in pathways speeches, sometimes it's very subjective. So if you think you as an evaluator, you are not so sure what to focus on, you can always ask help from a more senior member. And this part is all subjective or it's open-ended. It's up to you how you want to write it and type it out. So this is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 criteria, and sometimes you have the 8th criteria over here. It's up to you to score it, and you can add additional comments over here if you want, but the space is quite limited unless you print it out and do handwritten. If not, it's quite limited when you want to type it out. So here there is some guideline for you on how you can review the scores. So normally I would not give a 5. Yeah, you may think I'm very strict, but 5 is really for exemplary speaker who has nothing to improve in that particular area. So rarely I will see a perfect speaker. I would say maybe you can put a 4 if you think that speaker did remarkably well. And normally maybe about 3 or 4, or if it is an area that needs a lot of work of improvements, maybe you want to put a 2. Yeah, so you can read through this. And I would say it's very important for all evaluators to read through the project manual, or maybe even talk to the speaker before and even after the meeting, because 2 to 3 minutes of evaluation points to the speaker may not be enough, may not be what you want to share everything. Yeah, so that's all. So I hope that everyone will continue and try to be an evaluator, because by being an evaluator, not only that you can help other speakers to grow, but you can also help yourself to grow by taking note of what recommendations that you have provided for other speakers. Evaluate to motivate, that's your goal. Thank you very much.